Yes, sir. Walt, I'm just gonna turn that one over. Walt, I'm gonna turn that over to you.
I'm ready. Call my number in the huddle.
Did you do your homework? I'm waiting on Dr. Curley.
He's here. I just saw
I know it, I just, he's getting his food. Don't let me forget to get, it's called two stones with one bird.
We'll have to ask
Thank you, though.
We've got utility people here tonight. That's something we got.
All right.
I'll wait another couple minutes, Dr. Curley. Huh? No, I like it though.
You like this room?
What?
You like this room? You know,
I can believe that.
Did you ask about that?
Yeah.
I can't believe it.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the November 5th meeting of the Gastonia City Council. I'd like to, at this time, to call on Mayor Pro Tem Brenda Craig for the prayer, after which, if we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Ms. Craig?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Our dear Heavenly Father, be with us tonight. Guide us as we make decisions based on the information that we have. We thank you for the things that you have blessed us with this day and all the days to come. Watch over us, give us the strength and the courage to continue to do your work. In your name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item C is the adoption of the agenda.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second here, sir.
All right, discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item D is approval of the minutes.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion, all in favor? Thank you. Under Awards, Ceremonies, and Promotions Committee, I would call on Councilman Kimball for a real special proclamation, please.
Thank you, Your Honor.
there are at least 115,000 people living with neuroendocrine tumors, NET, in the United States, and more than 12,000 new cases are diagnosed each year. And whereas raising public awareness of NET is key to early detection of the disease, as NET often develops into cancer, and if left untreated, can result in serious illness and death. And whereas NET cancer patients are often misdiagnosed or received a delayed diagnosis, which can have a negative impact on their chance of survival and quality of life. And whereas survival for NET cancer patients is further compromised by fragmented care and lack of access to treatment by networks of specialists. And whereas there have been advances in the detection and treatment of NET cancers, not all patients are benefiting quickly enough from scientific and medical progress in the field. And whereas with timely diagnosis and proper treatment, NET cancer patients can have significantly improved outcomes and quality of life. And whereas the establishment of the NET Cancer Awareness Day will provide the opportunity to share information with the public to raise public awareness of neuroendocrine tumors, therefore be it resolved that the Mayor and City Council of the City of Gastonia do hereby proclaim November 10, 2013 as NET Cancer Awareness Day 2013 in Gastonia, North Carolina, and commend its observance to all citizens. It was attested to by our esteemed Mayor, John D. Bridgman, and our clerk, Virginia Creighton. Thank you.
Jan?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Mayor Bridgman and City Council members. I was diagnosed with a carcinoid cancer in September of this year. It's just 2 months ago. The process for the diagnosis took over a year, plus also seeking a second opinion by a gastrointestinal specialist to find out what was wrong with my body. There was a tumor discovered in my small intestine and lesions on my liver. I have had surgery. I'm now recovering from that. Just over a month ago to remove the tumor and area lymph nodes and a biopsy on the liver. By the time I was diagnosed with this cancer, it was in stage 4 and it had spread to my liver. Since this diagnosis, I've learned the extreme importance of awareness for this cancer. Did you know that over 90% of all carcinoid NETs are incorrectly diagnosed and treated for the wrong disease? From initial onset of symptoms, the average time to proper diagnosis exceeds 5 years. Physicians still believe that carcinoid tumors are benign, slow-growing, and do not metastasize. Irritable bowel syndrome, IBS, and Crohn's disease are the 2 most common misdiagnosed conditions for patients with midgut carcinoid. Abdominal pain, flushing, diarrhea, wheezing, bloating, heart palpitation, weakness, skin rash, heartburn, and weight changes are the most prevalent carcinoid NET symptoms. Current studies suggest that the carcinoid neuroendocrine tumors are not as rare as once thought. And there are as many as 125,000 now carcinoid patients living in the United States today, and the number of diagnoses is increasing by more than 5% annually. The zebra, or zebra print, is the carcinoid cancer and neuroendocrine mascot. In medical school, doctors are taught when hearing hoofbeats, think horses, not zebras. In other words, go for the obvious first. Carcinoids say that if you hear hoofbeats, look behind you. It might be a zebra. Look beyond the obvious because it might save a life. I have learned so much during this journey with carcinoid cancer, and I know that if it were not for my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, I would not be standing here today to share this with you. God has walked me through each day, moment by moment, giving me strength and courage to move forward to live through this. There is not a cure for carcinoid cancer right now, but I have peace in my heart and soul knowing that God is and will be by my side with each step, for He is my hope. Thank you for supporting the people living with carcinoid cancer in declaring November 10th, 2013 as Carcinoid Cancer Awareness Day, NET Awareness Day. I am proud that I live in a community where our leaders are willing to bring awareness to a cause that needs to be in the spotlight. Your continued support will make a difference in someone's life. May God bless you all. Thank you.
I know I join with our mayor, council, and our city staff in giving you our best wishes for a full and complete recovery, and that you fight every day. Thank you, ma'am.
Jan, would you be so kind as to step around and we'll, as we do our motion, speak to us?
Thank you so much for coming. We need a motion to
Yes. Porter's gonna make one.
Yeah, so move.
Is there a
Second.
second that? All in favor, please? It's unanimous. And thank y'all for coming. Thank you for being here. God bless you. Let me say before public expression that, I don't know what y'all were doing 2 years ago tonight. Actually, I do know what you were doing 2 years ago tonight. A little bit later than this, but you're a good group, and this is we're halfway there. And still kicking, still going strong, so this is our anniversary, you might say. So not to swear it in, but the actual vote. And, you know, Doctor, you and I had a full head of hair 2 years ago. I don't know why.
Something like that.
Okay, nobody believes that either. Okay, public expression. Each person is limited to a total of 5 minutes speaking time. And under the public expression is Don Barkley. If you'd come up, please, 3101 Whitson Road. Topic is planning.
Well, I don't know, that's what they call it, is planning. And, sometimes I look at it and I think maybe it's scheming instead of planning. We'll pass this out. I called Jason Thompson last week about this, something that happened several years ago. I tried to find a resolution that the city passed about improving 321 and 85 interchange. Couldn't find it, but I know there's one on record somewhere. Now, Mr. Mayor, being in the real estate business, I think you can understand this. The more restrictions you put on a piece of property, the less valuable it is. Now, when it comes time to settle with DOT, I'm on my own. I'm not worried about it. But I fail to appreciate.
Is this microphone on?
It isn't? Well,
Better now, yeah.
Okay.
okay. Well, now you can hear me.
Yeah.
I mean, when it comes to settling with DOT, I can take care of myself, win or lose. And I'm not asking any help from the city, but I'm not asking for interference either. And that's the reason I fail to appreciate the planning department of the city of Gastonia. And I think, now whether you agree with me or not, I just want you to understand my position. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
I was really up here about the stormwater. I thought, well, while I'm here, why not take 2 things I won't have to come back.
That's the thing.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Mr. Barkley. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion here, sir.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion or questions? All in favor? Thank you. Under the regular agenda, item 9, public hearing on the confirmation of the assessment roll and levying assessments for sanitary sewer line extension for Greenfield Avenue in accordance with section 14-144B1 of the Gastonia Code of Ordinances inside the corporate city limits. Presentation by Mr. Rusty Boss, the city engineer. Rusty?
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council.
It's number 9, folks.
This public hearing tonight on this item is the final process in which we extend sewer and water lines to our residents by the assessment process. The project has been completed. This is a sewer extension on Greenfield Avenue. The project's been completed. Residents are starting to tie on. I think 2 of the properties have tied on, and the third one's in the process. At your October 1st meeting, council adopted a resolution declaring the cost, ordering the preparation of the preliminary assessment roll, and setting the public hearing for tonight. Notices that this meeting was being held tonight has been sent out to all of the property owners on the street, the residents. After hearing any comments from anybody tonight, any comments?
I'd like to declare the hearing open.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Staff recommends that council approve the resolution confirming the assessment roll. This is just another one of our standard sewer extension projects, and I'll be glad to try and answer any questions on it.
Questions of Rusty? You have your exhibits under number 9.
I don't believe anyone has signed up to speak. Is that correct, Mr. Mayor?
That is correct. Greenfield. Mhm. Yeah, did you have a question?
No, I have no
Oh.
questions.
You have a motion?
Motion that we approve.
Second here, sir.
All right, okay, no other discussion. All in favor, please? Okay, thank you. Thank you, sir. Item, you through?
Well, for that one, I'll be here for the next one.
Oh, you do, you just stay in there?
I'm conserving my energy.
Oh. Well, I was wondering if you were gonna sit down and get back up again. Item 10 is a public hearing, the consideration of stormwater fee increase. Number 1 is resolution revising stormwater rates pursuant to section 14-703 of the Gastonia City Code and the North Carolina General Statute, section 160A-314. Number 2 is the ordinance amending section 14-714 of the Gastonia City Code, amount of funding from stormwater utility funds. I do move that the public hearing be open. Call on Mr. Rusty Boss, city engineer.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor.
Item 10.
The utility committee and then through its report to the city council, recently made some modifications to the off right-of-way programs that the city has to offer. One of those was requiring participation by the owners. The other was to create a method where we would reimburse the owners for the construction. This was aimed at trying to expedite the projects a little quicker than what we're getting to right now. And the third was that they confirmed the city's financial participation based on prioritization by the Stormwater Commission. The other thing that the city utility committee did during that meeting that brought to the council was a recommendation to consider a fee increase from $2.75 per month per ERU to $3.25 per month. That's a 50 cents increase per month based off of the ERUs. The stormwater fees collected by the city currently go to a lot of different uses. I'm going to throw a pie chart up here. So everybody see this. This is the same pie chart that's
We have.
One of the things that the committee recommended was that if there were an increase in the stormwater fee, that those funds be directed towards projects, specifically projects and not administrative costs. The administrative costs essentially would be these 2 areas up here. The rest of these is essentially the projects, the field work that goes on managing and maintaining our stormwater system. Staff also created a chart that shows showed what an incremental fee increase would look like as far as revenue towards the city. The top one is a quarter, 25 cents. It would total up to about $200,000 per year for the city. The 50 cents would total up to about $400,000. Essentially increments of $200,000, just big round numbers per year. So that's sort of the revenue that we're looking at that would be dedicated strictly towards the project. So it's the intent of the motion of the utilities. Staff also is able to be in touch with other municipalities in the region, some that are more comparable with our size. Again, this is the package or the tabulation that's in your agenda package. And those are essentially the monthly fees that we're seeing based off of other municipalities. And you can see they range anywhere from no fee all the way to Charlotte-Mecklenburg of over $9 per month, and everything in between. But that's a good way to a good barometer of where we stand with our other communities. Then we also wanted to take a look at what an impact of that recommended 50-cent increase would mean towards actual businesses here in Gastonia. So we took, again, this is another chart that's in the impact. We took sort of some randomly selected parcels around the city. We tried to include very large as well as very small, and take a look at what the new monthly fee would be and the incremental change in those fees. At the very bottom is the residential unit, and you see it's essentially it's that 50-cent increase per ERU. So that would be applied to all of the residential businesses. All of the residents. The rest of, we also included City Hall. You see an increase there of $5.12 per month, all the way up to the First United Methodist Church here in downtown, and Ashbrook High School. We wanted to include a school in there also, so we kind of get a very broad picture of how much these increases go. The column on the far right is the monthly increase that these entities would be billed. The committee also asked staff, and this was a new thing that came out of the committee. This wasn't part of the committee presentation. The committee asked staff to look at different billing options, different ways to assess the fee and collect it. We looked at 3 options, or actually 4. Most communities in North Carolina use the ERU method that we use, where you establish an average rate for residents. All the residents get charged that rate, and then that ERU turns into how is used to calculate impervious surface on commercial or non-residential structures. So essentially, it's a pretty level playing field across the board for everybody. Government entities, businesses, residences, everybody's sort of a level playing field. We also looked at using a flat rate. This is done in just under 5%, or I'm sorry, just over 5% of the municipalities that we were able to sample in the state. And essentially, this method is everybody pays the same. Walmart would pay the same as resident John Doe, flat rate across the city. There's a tiered method whereby, based off of the imperviousness of the property, you pay different rates that are tiered out. There's found a typical one would be a 2,000 square foot break would be $3 a month. 2,000 to 3,000 would be $4 a month, and 3,000 above would be $5 a month. Again, this applies to regardless of residential or the type of use of the property or anything. One of the other ones that we looked at was differential rates between residential and non-residential customers. The city of Archdale is the only one in the state that uses this method. And essentially, it's a flat rate for residences and then a calculation based on impervious surface for non-residential. When staff looked at this and we looked at the workload involved, we looked at the amount of effort that would have to go into changing these rates and all the calculations that would have to be involved, and looking at what everybody else in the state is doing, we kind of came back to the recommendation that we stay with the ERU method that we have in place right now. That seems to be the most efficient, the most fair, and the most commonly used rate. It's what's expected in utilities. With that being said, after all of the work and all the information provided, staff recommends that we keep in place the current ERU-based fee structure. Staff recommends that consideration for a fee increase from $275 to $325 go into effect on July 1st of 2014. That coincides with the new fiscal budget year. One of the big drivers there on that one was that we didn't want to put something in place too soon that other people hadn't had a chance to budget for, specifically schools, anybody else that's on the same kind of fiscal calendar as we are, that didn't have any money set aside for a fee increase. I think the July 1st, 2014 allows for us to plan a little better. Staff also recommends that if the increase is approved, that the attached resolution to increase the stormwater fee also be adopted. And when we originally set up the city's stormwater ordinance, there was a statement in it that divvied up how much money by ordinance had to go into off right-of-way program, how much money had to go into maintenance of the public work and the infrastructure in the right-of-way. That has become kind of a brick wall that we run into sometimes, and staff is asking that some flexibility be added to that, and that the word shall be changed to should in the ordinance. And that's included on the attached resolution also. That, I think that'll give us a little bit more flexibility when we're dealing with these projects, and sometimes a little bit of money needs to shift to accomplish a project from year to year. With that being said, I would be glad to try and answer any questions anybody has. I know this is a long topic that we've gone over several times, but
Elder?
Rusty, you're asking for a 50-cent increase on this, and that would equal for residents $6 per year.
yes.
Also, the $400,000 that this would generate, would this go to increasing staff?
No, sir.
Or increasing, is
No,
it just for projects themselves that
The-
are listed here?
The recommendation from the utility committee would be that that increase be specifically directed into the capital improvement budget for projects. So it would go for materials that staff may build the project. We may not necessarily contract it out. It may be something that city forces build, but we would purchase the pipe or the seeding or the erosion control stuff that goes with it. Or it would be to a contractor, could be to some professional services for some testing associated with a project. But it would be directed towards a specific project. It would be about fixing problems out in the field, and not additional staff, not additional administrative costs.
Now, this is fixing problems that are off the right-of-way
Or on the right-of-way.
or on the
It
right-of-way.
was not specified in the utility committee, and I think staff would say that flexibility would be important.
Now, I counted that we have 80 projects that are here,
Yes, sir.
and you ranked them according, ones are priorities, twos or threes.
Staff generally ranks the projects that are inside the right-of-way, the maintenance of those projects. Projects that are off right-of-way go before the city's stormwater commission, which is a citizen panel appointed by this body, and they place prioritization on those projects as a category 1, 2, or 3, with 1 being the most critical projects. And this is for projects in people's yards. And then funding is basically first come, first served in those subcategories.
And there should be another project listed as the unknown, because every year or periodically, all of a sudden, there's something that's not even on the list, and it fails. And if it's in our right-of-way, we have to deal with it, and it automatically jumps in and competes for the money. So that's another thing, and we've had a few of those this year where you actually have a sinkhole, you have something like that going on your street, and so therefore, that's always there with stormwater.
So
That
this-
project down on Second Avenue, right behind Covenant Church,
Yes, sir.
was a surprise. You had to spend all.
That was a big surprise, and that bled over into the stormwater, or the sewer also. There were a lot of different things happening in one spot. Yes, sir.
Surprise.
Very big.
Yes, sir, Mr. Kimball.
Thank you, sir. Rusty, with regard to the approximately 84 projects that you've identified here, with the 50 cent per ERU fee increase, would there be what would be the acceleration in turnaround time to complete these existing projects? Because I see here you have obviously you have your median is about 6 years on the project. What could we expect with that?
All right, this is big, broad, generalized
Sure.
paintbrushes. Because with whatever I'm gonna tell you, there's an exception to that rule somewhere
course.
that's gonna hit us. Right now, our capital budget every year is around 380,000. What we're talking about is 400,000 in addition to that 380,000 every year. So we'll have twice as much money every year going into the capital improvement fund. So theoretically, we could see twice as many projects, theoretically. Devil gets into details. Some of these projects are gonna have very differing costs. You could find some projects that eat an entire year's budget in just one or two projects. So I hate to throw a number out there without a whole lot of caveats around it.
Okay. Let me rephrase then. Would you feel comfortable that there would be an acceleration on the project list with this increase?
Yes, sir.
That's all I have. Thank you, sir.
Ms. Craig?
Rusty, we currently, if I'm reading this right, we currently bring in $2.1 million.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And of that $2.1 million, how much of that is spent on road right-of-ways?
The best answer to that is going to be on the pie chart.
Okay, I see that, that's
The
right.
red section, the 32%,
Uh-huh.
that's our road right of way, that's our major culverts.
You'd take 32% of 2.1 million.
So 32% of that 2.1 million, so that's.
672,000.
Okay, okay. So,
Thank you.
so that 32% of the 2.1 million currently is being spent on that, all right? Is that 32% pretty accurate year over year over year, or does that fluctuate a whole bunch?
It definitely fluctuates. I haven't looked at the previous years. That was just last year's numbers.
So we don't really know what the average might be?
I don't have, we can find that out. That's
Okay.
an easy number to get and track that. I just don't have that listed.
Well, what I'm getting at, okay, is if we're gonna increase to $3.25, and that's gonna generate close to $400,000, which is gonna about double what we spend on right-of-ways,
What we
Yeah.
spend on capital projects.
capital projects.
I should clarify, the public needs also goes to like maintenance of the stormwater equipment, backhoes, and the trucks that go out in the field. It's not all specific to the project itself, there's also other costs associated with it that aren't really administrative costs, but they're definitely costs towards the stormwater.
Okay. I guess what I am trying to ascertain is if we've got $400,000 more, then it goes back to what Councilman Kimball was saying. Right now, if we're doing 4 projects on the money that we have currently, then should we expect 8 projects done if we increase it?
Numbers of projects are hard to throw, but yes.
I know, that's,
To give a very simplified answer, yes. That's what we're anticipating. Right now, we have our CIP, our programming of stormwater money goes out 5 years in advance. Right now, we are programming, for instance, in fiscal year 14-15, we're programming one project to receive $230,000. Now this is in the right of way.
It's
one-
in the right of way.
and this is on the right of way, this is public needs type
Right.
projects. One project is gonna receive $230,000. So you can see where one project may eat the majority of that money in a hurry. Conversely, we may turn around, we may end up spending that money on 15 different projects that are just smaller in nature.
Well, I struggle, where my struggle is that there's some projects on here, on these 84, that have been here, been on this list 8, 9 years.
Yes.
And how do we, I know how we justify, but how do we accommodate their needs in a better, faster way?
I think there are two things that we're talking about that are gonna directly impact that. The first one's already been done, and that is allowing for a reimbursement program, where we allow the property owner to hire an engineer of their choosing to do their design on their schedule, and then hire a contractor to do the construction on their schedule, and we simply reimburse them for that. Right now, you know, we have a pretty finite staff, and we have the Geo Bond projects going on, so you're always managing workload. So if the property owner will take some of that workload off, these things could happen a lot quicker. You may have somebody who's 51st on the list, may not be a very high priority project, but they just want it done, and they can get to it a lot quicker than we can get to it. So allowing that reimbursement program to be in place, and that should help in some of those instances. The other one is simply money. If we had more money, we could get more projects out the door.
Well, and that answers my question, basically. By doing this, and by modifying the procedures that we did have in place, okay, gives us the opportunity to accelerate some of these that have been on this list for 8 or 9 years, if it's off of the right of way.
Yes.
And the property owner wants to partner with the city in some way to be able to get that done.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. McAdoo?
Yeah, several things. Before you had the stormwater fee, the feds told us we had to do something. Before you had that, we were still doing a lot of this work. The right of way, culverts, all that sort of thing. Where'd you get the money to do it then?
At that time, it probably came from two different sources. I may have let the manager answer that, but I believe Powell bill and general fund were probably the two major ones.
So
Yeah,
it's part of the taxes.
General fund, your basic taxes paid for it. We have, as Rusty said, Powell bill to some extent, but it's basically your general fund. We didn't do anything off right away except for the old agreement, which we still have, that if you agree to buy the pipe, we will put it in. That was it. And it was not used that often, so it was a much smaller scale. We fixed the things that broke.
What happened to that money that we were using to do all this work before? It looks like we would have continued to have that money. Instead of just replacing it with the 2.1 million, we would have added the 2.1 to it. Now, why
We-
did past councils not continue to use the money that we're already using and use this stormwater money to really accelerate things? What we've done is taken that stormwater money and taken that other money back and put it somewhere else. I don't know why we got legal on here, because we already pay him. Why we have to, but anyway, I mean, that's, I guess he gets a cut in his department in the budget. I know each person contributes to all these different departments and stuff. But why would we have kept that money that we were already using and use the stormwater money and increase what we were doing? And I don't understand that. I know that we have a lot of money collected from water and sewer rates and all that sort of thing. That money ought to be going to water and sewer and doing these sort of things, I think, and not doing other things. And I don't understand that, but why we only got $400,000 going to these projects, and we've been doing them anyway. We ought to have 2.1 million going to those projects. I don't understand that. Can you explain that to me?
I'm old enough to remember all that, but yeah, we're doing more now than we used to do. Before, the stormwater was the forgotten utility. There wasn't any dedicated money for it. There was dedicated money for water and sewer and dedicated money for streets. There wasn't any dedicated money if a storm, I mean, the only thing we did really, we did some maintenance when we got around to it, and we fixed things that broke. So what we're doing today, we actually have crews that are dedicated to it. So there's a higher level. But also during the same period of time, the city was growing. Your fire department grew, your police department grew, your recreation department grew, the whole city grew. So exactly where all the dollars, it'd be interesting, you try to follow them all. But clearly what we're doing today, ever since we got into stormwater, is much more than what we used to do. What we used to do is little or nothing. I mean, it was just really only the things that.
Not $2.1 million worth of.
No. We're in a much better position, and if something happens, we're able to bring those dollars to bear. In fact, if necessary, we'll use general fund dollars again. If it were in the public right of way and we needed to do something, well, we would have to go ahead and do that.
I think all that stormwater money ought to be going for stormwater projects, and we ought to somehow or another go back and find the money that, with water and sewer money, to do what we were doing before and add it. But that's just my opinion.
Mr. Pearson.
It's my 2 cents.
My two concerns are, we've heard it a couple times here already, the length of time that some of these projects have been on this list that are considered less important. Is that fair to say? But shouldn't they move up on that list as the years start ticking off? I mean, 9 years ago, the project may not have been important, but we're talking stormwater, so you're probably looking at erosion, all kinds of different things. After 9 years, it should be near the top of the list, because it's been on there for 9 years. So that's my concern, is that the way we rank these projects, I understand there may be property at risk or even life at risk, and those have to take priority. But among these others, when something's been on here since 2006, you can't go back to that person and say, well, you're just not a priority right now. I mean, 6 years, the city's had 6 years to find this money to help this person out.
Yeah.
So that's my first concern. We need to look at how we rank these projects. My second concern is the verbiage that you want to change from should to shall, or shall to should. What is it? Which one?
Should.
Shall to should. Okay, that could work both ways, couldn't it? Because we're saying 25% has to be dedicated to out of right-of-way. And a lot of these that have been on here for 9 years are out of right-of-way. Now we're saying, well, 25% should be. Okay, and then we start looking at the budget and we say, well, we've got a couple of really important ones here, so we're not gonna give 25% this year. So that person that was on the list for 9 years, because we changed shall to should, is gonna be on there for 10 years now. So I don't know that I like it working both ways.
Well, the way it's written now, it shall be no more than 25%, didn't mean that it would be 25%. It can already be less than 25%, I think. So that problem is still there. It could be.
What
less
I'd
than
like to see, though,
25%.
what I'd like to see is a guaranteed portion of that budget go to out of right-of-way projects, so we know we're whittling down this list. I don't want any ambiguity on, well, we can put this much, or we don't have to put this much, or we might put this much. I wanna say we are gonna put that much.
You lock yourself into a specific percentage, then you have to do
Minimum
that.
percentage. If you wanna do more, that's fine, but I think there should be a minimum set to that.
Are you saying that word ought to be will?
I don't know what the word
It
should
would be, will be at least X percentage, and that would be a threshold. That's
Right.
what you wanted to say.
Right, a threshold.
Will be at least X, whatever you think it
A
should be.
threshold is a good term.
Right. A floor.
Dr. Curley.
Todd, I agree with the intent of your thought, but the only question would be is if you pigeonhole the city into that, then if you have that emergency, then if, funds required, more monies to be spent to ameliorate that emergency, and you've sequestered 25% of your funds that cannot be spent for, you know, an on-right-of-way event, catastrophe, what have you, then I guess we would have to be looking at some other kind of budgetary allotment out of the general fund to handle that emergency. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong.
I think you'd be right, but I'm okay with that, because if you have an emergency that exceeds your budget now, where does that money come from?
General
The general fund. So if you have an emergency that exceeds the 75% that you have remaining in that budget, I mean, because what's 25% of that budget? It's not astronomical. We're not talking about, you know, millions and millions of dollars here. But we are talking about getting some of these
$525,000.
$525,000. But we are talking about getting some of these things off the list that have been on here for 9 years.
Mr. Mayor, just one point of order. If we could do the sign-up sheet and hear from any members of the public that have come to give input to this before council gets into a lot of deliberations, that would probably be more in
think
order,
so,
but that's
yeah.
at your discretion.
I'll acknowledge, Mr. Kimball, then I do have a silent. I got it right here.
Thank you,
You
George.
had your hand up.
A very quick question, Rusty. Kind of goes to some of the thought processes we've seen, or we've heard tonight from the other council members. Has this issue ever been brought up before? Because it's very clear that you indicate it's never been increased since its creation, but yet we've also, we know, fuel for the various parts of equipment that are used on construction sites, the very salaries of our workers that, our benefits of our workers, what legal fees cost. Where are we with that? Has this ever been broached before?
No, sir, this is the first time that we've discussed increasing the stormwater.
Thank you. That's all I have, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Mr. Barkley?
Your breakfast, bud.
I've got some handouts here that my memory's not what it used to be, so I just decided to bring it in writing. And pass this around. Thank you. And you will notice these are minutes of earlier meetings when 2001. And Dr. Curlin was asking about emergencies. I do remember when the stormwater program started, they took money out of the general fund according to Danny Cruz. And then as they collected money, repaid the general fund. Now that's hearsay. I don't know if it's for a fact. That's what he told us back then. I just want you to notice the $25 that was charged to assign the utility to the tenant and the property owner, which is rather high. Then there was a typo error, 2560 instead of 2650. But I do want you to look at the very bottom paragraph, what Tidwell said about schools and churches, which I'm neither a teacher or a preacher and not trying to be. But I believe what Dr. Danny Crew told him was correct. They cannot be exempt. Nobody can be exempt from the way I read it. In fact, the city can be exempt. But you can put them in the same category as a house, I believe. $3.75 a month. But that's your prerogative. I just wanted to get that point cleared up. Because for some reason, Dr. Daniel Cruz said it as if you had to charge them. That's your prerogative. If you want to charge them, all right. If you want to charge them $3.75, all right. I don't care. Now, Mr. McAteer and members being on the county board, and once a year they had a budget session. And every time at budget session, all the school teachers show up. Everybody wants to raise, we gotta do it for the children. They had a gentleman, I can't remember his name right now, but he came in one night. He was as righteous as a Baptist preacher revival meeting, and held up a paper. He says, "Pay for the children in Gaston County are below average." True statement. Think about it. He's right. that's reminding me of what happened at the committee meeting. When the question came up about, why do we measure houses? It costs too much to measure. It's not worth measuring. Well, if it's 2560 or 2650 makes no difference. Half of the houses are paying too much and the other half are not paying enough. But yet, anybody else, the city can measure it. But your program does not measure retention basins. It only measures impervious surface. I always wondered about that. So, these are just some handouts of what happened in the past. Now here's a good one on off right-of-way. And that's what reason I decided to come tonight when I heard them talking about off right-of-way. With as many engineers as you have on the payroll, they had to go to JNP. I've heard of all economic development. Well, JNP's bought a building up here on Main Street. I don't know how much business they planning on doing with the city of Gastonia. To pay an outside engineering firm to design a drainage ditch, kind of expensive. I believe city staff could design a ditch on a, you know, that all you gotta do is see where the water flows. And they keep talking about drainage. Now, the way I understand it, it rains on the mountain, it rains in the valley. The people in the mountains are not worried about flooding. The people in the valley are. Talking about piping it, that causes more flooding in the valley. I haven't heard anybody say anything about retention basins. Are we gonna build those? A developer building a subdivision, he's required to build retention basins. Well, apparently they're important for the developer, not for the city. So by all this piping, you may be creating more flooding and more problems for somebody in the future. It's just like the welfare system. This will cause more flooding that will cause them to come back to ask for another raise. So is that what you councilmen want? The reason I'm just giving you a heads up because this is something you inherited from the previous council, and you have an opportunity tonight to just say no. If you won't do it, if you want to say go ahead and raise it. But it doesn't make much difference to me. But now that second paper that's gave you, turn over on the other side. See, it says second thing you do is to have a checklist, check to see that you're on the right of way. So here is where your money is spent. Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I have to look out after myself sometimes.
Just two of these, Mr. Parker.
Oh, I didn't mean to put those. See, I have to bring these to remember what I'm going to talk about. So, I notice on, on this page 10.1, on the background, you have decreased the stormwater-related issues. Well, this type of utility, unlike water and electrical, that every month you're buying something, this is a utility which could put itself out of business. In other words, after 10 years, it looks like we would have less need for stormwater. But no, instead of less, staff tells us we need more. So where does it end? I don't know. I just wanted to give you something to think about tonight, because I've thought about it for years. I didn't like being gouged when I had $25. And here's the last one. Your computer program that can do the impervious surface, which may or may not be correct. Here's a map of my property. That's all I know is how it affects me personally. Down on Bottonwood, the blue shows the city outfall line that empties out on me. I have got a natural flood retention basin. No, that's not taken into consideration. Not at all. I just provide. I didn't know I was providing a free service for the city. Anytime anybody wants to look at it, you're welcome to. Oh, and there was mention made of this, 168, 314. I don't know if anybody wants to read it. If you do, I've got that too. Okay.
What is it? The enabling legislation.
The only advantage personally, paying more property tax instead of a utility, I can deduct property tax from the federal. You can't deduct utilities. And that goes for the councilman as well as myself. You know, this is kind of like what's happening in Washington. They want Congress to be under the same health plan. Well, I want my councilman not be able to deduct utilities like I can't deduct. And I think I've talked long enough, and you've been very patient. Thank you for your time. Have a good meeting.
Thank you, sir. I would, any questions?
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
What are you referencing that the council gets to deduct their stormwater fee?
No, the individual must not get to deduct
Correct.
on federal income tax.
Right,
Well, I can't deduct it, you can't deduct it on yours.
right.
So
So
the same
we're
boat.
the same.
Right,
But if it was folded into property taxes, you could deduct that.
right. That's my point.
Okay. You lost me on that one because you were comparing us to something in Washington and
Well, I mean, they're, in
Totally
Washington,
lost
they're talking about health care and putting Congress under the same health plan as everybody else. See, you're in the same boat with me.
right. So it's
Okay?
not comparable to health care, right?
No, not a bit.
Okay. Make sure I'm following you there.
Since this is a hearing, I would like to, I've had a request from Mr. Jeff Booker, Deputy Superintendent of the Gaston County Schools, that would like to speak, if you could, please. Mr. Booker?
Thank you, Mayor Benjamin, Honorable Councilman. We appreciate the service you give to our city every day. I am a resident of the city of Gastonia, and just wanted to speak to, as your staff has shown, we will bear a large brunt of the $400,000 increase. And any consideration that we give and would help us. As you know, our budget stays under the same pressure your budget stays under. But we do appreciate the participation we've been given, and we also are appreciative, I understand from staff, that the credit for stormwater detention that we have developed on some of our sites will stay in place with this. And so we just appreciate any consideration you can give to help us, and again, thank you for your service.
Thank you, sir. Any questions of Mr. Booker? Dr. Curley, excuse me.
Mr. Booker,
Yes.
Pardon me, with regard to the school facilities, do you have some kind of an estimate of what percentage of the school facilities currently have retention or detention facilities on their properties?
No, sir, because a large percentage of our buildings are greater than 30 and 50 years of age, they have not had those, but as we've done additions or significant work, we have done, so for example, at Ashbrook High School, we did that work, we've done it, and we enjoy a 40% credit for that.
Right, so Stuart Kramer has those in place.
Yes, Stuart Kramer has 3 different retention ponds.
Right, right.
Under the current code, yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Any other questions of Mr. Booker? Thank you, sir. I'm ready to close the public hearing and
That motion will be in order, Mr. Mayor, unless council feels they're going to need to ask a question of somebody. They do, then you have to reopen the public hearing and bring them back up to the
I
podium.
can leave it open if it
Yeah.
let's, okay. Any discussion, or does anyone care to make a motion?
Well, I'd like to make a motion that we close the public hearing and approve the staff recommendations as listed on Exhibit 10-4 to include the fee increase and the resolution as listed below.
Second.
Any questions on that motion?
Aye.
Okay. Mr. Gallagher and then Mr.
The one question I have is, Todd, I like how you brought up that we should have at least minimum 25% of the stormwater projects listed to be, at least the minimum. That's one verbiage I'd like to see instead of should and shall being changed. So if you consider that, Dr. Gerlin, to amend your motion to that regard.
I think we can,
You could vote on his, and then you can bring a motion to do the ordinance, because Dr. Curlin's motion included basically the resolution, and we need a separate motion on the ordinance, which is on 10-6, so we can do that next.
so,
The
Right,
ordinance
you're,
is-
so what I'll do is I'll amend the motion just to include the fee increase. Just to
Resolution.
consider, yes, we'll have the fee increase first, then we can have a second motion in which we can discuss the verbiage as was just mentioned, okay?
that's what I thought I was seconding, was the resolution on the fee, so I'm glad we clarified that.
Yeah, yeah. No, I snuck that in on you, sorry, Tom. So we're gonna go ahead and just, if that's
That's the way this
with
is.
the approval of the council,
in-
just the fee increase.
Right here in the agenda. Brenda?
Just one question for clarification. This fee increase would go into effect July 1st, 2014. Maybe I'm wrong, but was there some conversation that this would go into effect when we had our budget sessions or our committee meeting, January 2014?
Yes.
Help me understand that.
Your memory's perfect. When we were talking, in September, we were talking about doing this in January. Some of the information that we got from the county and from the schools talked about the impact on them because they are in the same fiscal year that we are, and that if we gave them an extended time, at least that allows the county and the schools to budget for this. So that as some county commissioners and school board folks talked about that, we thought that was reasonable so we recommended that would work well for them, and we thought it was a good idea.
So that has no impact on our current budget whatsoever?
No, because our budget's balanced on what we have now. This is only moving forward.
And one thing, I'll save that for the next motion. Thank you.
Yes, yes.
This fee raises us up to be the same as Belmont's, is that correct?
A little bit
Correct.
higher, I believe. Is it the same?
Yes.
Thought we were a little higher.
Exactly the same.
Yeah, we're same as Belmont.
Okay. Anybody else? Your motion, the first one, your motion, Dr. Gerlin, is to, as the recommendation says, is to raise the, okay? All in favor of the motion, raise your hand, please. Okay, all opposed? Thank you. Now, item number, we're still in session. Item number 2.
Oh, you want me to make the motion?
I'll make the motion that we
I'm
change the
sorry. He does.
verbiage to at least the minimum amount, 25% being the minimum amount of the projects listed to be completed
So,
per year.
Councilman Gallagher, if I can assist,
sir.
that'll be, and will be at least 25% of the annual capital project budget.
Just-
That's how that'll read.
Yes.
Project
All right.
budget,
Be
not
at
project.
least, say it again.
Will be at least 25%.
Of the capital funding to be allocated to the off-right of way projects.
What's deleted will be the words "shall be no more than."
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I second that.
Okay, discussion? Yes, ma'am? Yes, sir.
Just as information, and Dr. Curlin had mentioned about the flexibility with changing that wording a little bit. I see that as what we do when we need additional funds for the insurance claims we have to transfer from the general fund. Would this be the same type thing if we had a catastrophe or something that we would have to transfer money, although we were using at least 25% on the off right-of-ways?
Yes, if this is passed this way, it'll be 25% will be reserved for off right-of-way. Should something happen of a catastrophic nature,
Right.
and we would need to adjust that, something unusual, we'll just bring it back to City Council to see if the council would agree to make that exception.
So it would come back to the council for transferring funds?
Correct. The way it was set up before, as you can see, was what it was saying, you couldn't exceed it. And the problem that we were having is sometimes they were big projects, and we actually have exceeded in a couple of years, where if you go off right away, it could get expensive, and then all of a sudden in one given year, you could exceed it. Now, the next year, you might not. So we were just looking for the flexibility. But we can work with this, and if there's a year where that's causing a problem, then we'll just come right back to you folks and explain the situation.
I have a question. It's not about that particular verbiage, but it's about something else in the stormwater. Would you rather me just ask that after we vote on this? So I don't confuse the issue?
Yeah, let's go ahead and vote.
So what I'm hearing you say, Mr. Munn, is that if there was a concern, an exception, okay, that rather than actually maintain what this wording suggests, which is the at least 25%, that this could be considered an exception if so needed, as compared to requesting additional funds through the general fund balance, for instance. You're saying, actually, I want to get this straight, because, what this suggests is that it's at least and there's no exceptions.
Yeah.
But
Staff just wanted to have it flexible, because some years you might be doing a little more, off right away. Next, other years you'd be doing more on right away. And technically, if you had a lot of serious problems on right away, that's our liability, and that's usually involving a street failure or something like that. So we really kind of have to do that. We would then have a choice. The city would have a choice. We would all have a choice. What we could do is go to the stormwater fund and adjust this so we could push more money to on right away, or we could go to, say, the general fund and use the money there. Because we usually don't have much of a fund balance in stormwater. You might have a little bit there. But is that?
I understand what you're saying. It's just a question whether council likes that approach. So.
Yeah, I mean, we wrote it because we wanted to have the flexibility, because it goes back and forth. But I can appreciate what City Council's saying, is you want to just make sure that at least it's that way. The way it was written before, it wasn't allowed to be any more than that. So we're, and 25% has kind of been the rule of thumb that we've been using, and that's fine. I think we can go forward with it. And if we go forward in the next year and it's not workable, then we'll just bring it back and explain to you why it's not working.
Okay. Yes, sir.
And I know that we had a conversation about this. In fact, we did have some catastrophic failures due to the extensive rain we had during the, late spring, early summer months, that really brings rise to what you're talking about as far as some of your on-roadway incidents, correct?
Yes, correct. You get a lot of rain like that, one right after the other. The soil's wet, it's pushing, and then you get separation, and then you start to have the failures. Sure.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Okay. Now I'm lost. We've gotten to the discussion.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. All in favor of the motion? All opposed? All right. Both of those for unanimous. Thank you.
I got it.
Mayor, would it be?
You had, go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, I was
You
gonna
get
ask if
your-
it'd be appropriate to ask a question now while we're
Sure.
on the subject.
Yes, sir.
I noticed, in some of our many handouts here, and I did wonder about this, and I'm hoping maybe the city manager can just explain it to me, 'cause I'm not really following it. What is the $25 assignment fee for?
$25.
What he's referring to there.
It says the primary change is to allow property owners to assign their stormwater utility fee. And this is minutes from a previous council meeting. It says the determination was made that they would look at those locations that would typically want to have the property owner give the assignment to tenants.
I think Mr. Bombardier is going to be able to answer the question.
Can you, I'm just not, does this mean like if a shopping center, or does this apply to residential landlords? Can you just, if you have somebody renting your property?
That was primarily set up, the property owner is responsible for the bill legally. But that was set up as an administrative fee simply to handle the paperwork if an owner, say in a rental residential property, wanted to assign that to the tenant where they're paying all the other utilities. They could come in, fill out the appropriate paperwork. We would change the billing system to bill that tenant. Strictly an administrative fee to process paperwork. That's all it was.
And is the $25 just for the stormwater, or it applies to all utilities? It's just a $25?
That was just for the stormwater because, again, stormwater is billed to the owner of record in the Gaston County tax records. That's the records we have. And if they wanted to change that, whereas your normal utilities, water, sewer, electric, typically you come to City Hall or you call and you set it up in your name. We don't necessarily know when a tenant, in some cases, may be in a particular property. That's why we would bill the owner stormwater unless it's changed.
Gotcha. Makes perfect sense. Thank you for explaining that.
Thank you very much. Okay, come out of public hearing then. Item 11, Mr. Smith, is interlocal agreement between the city of Gastonia and Gaston County for collection of taxes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As the council will recall, I believe about a year, 18 months ago, county staff notified the city staff that they were going to begin charging the city for tax collection. The county's collected our taxes for about a dozen years, maybe longer, and the original interlocal agreement provided that they would transfer money collected each week on a weekly basis, and their fee was they got to keep the interest for that week. And that was negotiated, of course, when interest rates were a little bit higher, and the county felt that they needed to have a different system of being compensated for that because interest rates are so low. Originally, they had proposed keeping 1.5% of the property taxes, and the city manager staff analyzed that they could resume the collection of taxes in-house for about $200,000 a year, which would be just 0.71%. So that was less than half of what the county wanted to charge us. So after some negotiation, we have come to an agreement that the county will continue to collect the taxes at a fee of $4 per tax bill with a cap of $143,000 a year, and the term of the agreement is for 7 years. So that was basically, I guess, a negotiated compromise between the original positions. And the county's already approved this at their October 22nd meeting. I believe some of the other municipalities in the county continue their negotiations with the county and are kind of waiting to see what happens with our agreement. So that's where we are, and it is recommended for approval.
Okay, yes, sir, Doctor.
I'd just like to make one comment, and I want to thank the staff, the city manager, the city attorney, anyone who was involved with these discussions, because I think we finally come to what I would think would be a reasonable fee for the, the effort that the county's going to put forth. So I think it's a great job, and I'm glad you guys held out, and I'm glad we kind of asked you to hold out and do this negotiating. So good job.
Will put. Agreed. Mr. Gallagher, Mr. Pearson.
Is this, this is going out to the $4 fees for 28,000 residents, is that correct?
The number was based upon the amount of actual tax bills. But if you notice the way it's structured, it's a fixed, it can't be any higher than it's a fixed fee for 7 years. So no matter how many new bills are generated, as we grow, there'll be more bills, our number won't go higher. So 143, yeah, how many bills did they estimate? Remember, they were having a hard time, the county was having a hard time saying exactly how many bills we had.
Really?
Yes.
Amazing.
Pardon me? Just under 36,000 bills.
So $144,000, which is under the 200,000.
Yeah. And in addition, we don't have to spend the other money that we were talking about. The software money was $130,000 there, and we don't have to convert all of this. Although Susan Klutz was looking forward to doing a tax collector again. And we don't get to garnish people's wages, you know, and do those kind of things that tax collectors do. So we really, you know, didn't really want to get back in that business.
No.
I liked your idea about every resident having one bill, unless they merge them all together in one bill, because some of them look, you know, pretty thick, real estate. Okay.
I had a question.
Yes, sir.
Just so I understand this correctly, under 4A, it says city tax collected by the county, including any statutory interest or penalties, shall be wire transferred from the county's bank to the city's bank daily by 11 o'clock a.m. on recognized holidays for the bank. The city and county bank transfers shall be made on the last business day preceding the holiday. So that means that's eliminated the whole interest thing,
Yes.
correct?
Absolutely.
So there's
They
no
agreed
interest.
to, they agreed to daily.
When the first draft came to
Yeah.
me, it had the $4 per whatever, it had weekly transfers, and then it continued to have the language that they got to keep the interest. And our point was, that was the old fee in the old interlocal was the interest, so you can't have the interest anymore. And once the managers started talking about it, the managers agreed that the transfers would be made daily.
I like that.
So,
I like it.
everybody has had a little piece of negotiating this agreement, quite honest.
Well, I know a lot of work went into it, and
Now, including the council, because I know you all have told the county commissioners quite emphatically what you thought one-on-one in several
Yes, we
instances about this, and we do appreciate that.
but thank you to the staff. I know y'all worked long and hard on this.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Melanie, quick question. If you have this, what would the interest rates, prevailing interest rates, have to increase to for us to be able to offset this with any idea on us getting those monies daily now? Any idea offhand? Okay. I just wanted to see what our break-even point would be. Thank you. Nothing further, sir.
All right. Yes, ma'am.
Just one question of the city manager. The money that was budgeted, I keep going back to the budget issue. The money that was that we did budget for the transition will now be put where?
To the thermometer.
Thank you.
And the new thermometers that we're developing, and we'll be talking about those, next month.
Right.
What we've done is we have extended them, and we actually, built a little longer ones, so there's actually some employee pay potentially to take a look at that, so we built that. And so the money that was left over from last year's budget, we've pushed that into the 2015-16, and so what that does is that money just falls to the thermometer and helps us, because I think we're about $400 and some thousand off for next year, so that'll kind of bring it a little, just another, so maybe we'll get to, $380,000.
I'd like to have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we've had discussion. All in favor? Once again, it's unanimous. Thank you. Item 12 is Recreation Advisory Commission report. Councilman David Curlin, chairman, and this is as far as you can go in the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Quite frankly, in my absence from that meeting, I'm going to ask Mr. Dellinger to come to the podium and give a report. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Curlin, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Recreation Advisory Commission did meet on Tuesday, October the 8th. Our main topic of discussion was our master plan. As I talked to you the last time I was here for an RAC report, we were going to begin that process of looking at our master plan. It was a 2005 to 2020 plan, and of course, being in that plan for 8 years now, there's several projects within that plan that we have completed, and several projects in that plan that may no longer be trends in recreation that we wanted to look at that total plan and just see where we are and update the plan. If you'll remember, this plan was completed entirely with city staff efforts through the planning department, recreation department, engineering department, and others, with a 40-person committee, and we actually worked about 3 years on that project, to be honest with you. And we did have a good plan. As you can see, some of the components have come to fruition. So it will more than likely take us about half that long if we meet once a quarter and we work on it about an hour and a half like we did at our previous meeting to bring something back to you. We're also going to be working with the manager, our planning staff, and engineers to update some of the numbers, that are in it too. They're 8 years old. And of course, some of the staff input too, is to see where we are and actually put up, a timeline on that to bring forth to you. I did give them a tennis court update. As most of you saw, the county commissioners, not the county schools, the county commissioners voted to produce $90,000 toward the tennis courts at Ashbrook. Under our community schools agreement, our portion is half of that. Our estimate was $180,000 earlier, and we still, so $90,000 is sort of the number that we're looking at. But with Ashbrook, and we do have funds in the budget to do Ferguson Park and also Phillips Center. Looking at all those projects together to lump those projects, and we'll actually get a better number, which will produce savings. Also looking at a couple of different alternates, methods. Our engineering staff has assessed those courts, and there may be an alternate that will be a cheaper avenue to take on all those courts. So that's probably going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of January when we do put that out to bid and have some of those numbers bring back to you. But city staff, Mr. Munn, finance department, engineering, recreation, met to look at all of our project needs. Some of the things that we have ongoing, some of those are things that we are critical that we need to do that we did not budget. We've got a structural type problem and an airflow problem at the pool at Irwin. So we're lumping all of those things in together, prioritizing our needs, and working in any savings that we possibly can to fit the money that we have with the projects that we have. It is our intent definitely not to come back to you to ask for any more. Yes, sir.
Just one question, Chuck. Skateboard park, anything in the realm of us? I know we had one at one time at Lineberger, but that went away, and just wanted to know if there was one coming back.
Councilman Gallagher, what we purchased about 12 years ago was a pilot skate park, if you will. It was pieces. I came back to you. I think I reported to you at our last meeting that it was really not designed as a piece that was going to last, a lifetime kind of thing. And it is our recommendation, and it is a piece of our master plan to create a concrete, more permanent type skate park in the future. And that's basically what we're dealing with in this plan. That piece was moved to Phillips Center, and we have repaired it and repaired it and repaired it, and it has been used. It has been used heavily, but it has also been abused also. Those things take a beating. So we have surplus that equipment, and I don't remember, I have a group of young guys who are, actually they're telling me they're pooling their money together before we put it up for surplus. I'm actually holding on to it until they actually tell me that they think they have enough money to purchase it. I didn't tell them how much it was. It's just, it would be an auction. I think we put it on, finance folks put on Gov Deals or some other method that we could work with them on.
Thank you, Chuck.
Any other questions?
Item number 3 was the utilization for city parks for private enterprise. And most of you probably saw the article that was in the paper on Sunday. That stemmed from the agenda item that we have here. When we had our Recreation Advisory Commission meeting, we had 2 situations that came up that really made us kind of think about the boot camps or those extreme type exercise groups. One was we received a phone call from a gentleman who said his wife had been injured in one of those boot camps at one of our parks, and he wanted to file a claim. We talked with him a little further, and he said that the boot camp had told him that his wife had signed a hold harmless clause, and she had no claim with the boot camp. Come to find out, that was actually at a county park. We definitely made that contact to the county to tell them to possibly be aware of something coming. The other incident was just a few weeks before we had our meeting. It was on a Saturday morning. I got a call from a staff member around 7:30, 7:45 that we had 100 folks pulled in the parking lot at Rankin Lake Park, and it was the boot camp having a multi-county area where they were having their sessions. We immediately, I had someone go look at our books to make sure we didn't have a reunion planned at the building at Rankin Lake, to make sure we had very few shelter rentals, and to ask them when they were going to be finished. Luckily, we didn't have any of that, so we didn't have the conflict. So what we asked them to do was to contact us to set up a meeting, and we contacted some other city staff, the attorney risk management folks, to confirm our belief that one, they really needed our permission for scheduling. That was my primary concern. The other was that we, a group, once we knew about them, would have to produce a liability insurance with the city listed as an additional insured, and that they couldn't solicit or sell things on city property without an application type fee or without a lease or a contract, like we do the bicycle rental folks at the Greenway, like we do our dance instructors, our karate instructors, the same type deal. So we had done a little research. After the article came out, I was expecting it not to come out till after this meeting, but it came out Sunday. Yesterday and today, we've done a little more research, done a couple of listservs, and I will tell you that all cities and counties throughout North Carolina and all the way, I got some responses and some information all the way from Wilmington to Santa Monica, California, where it's groups who are coming in. Most folks have a policy or an ordinance in place that you can't solicit, or you must, you got to pay a fee to be on property. You must have the liability insurance. I think we have all the mechanisms in place. Some of them, New Hanover County has a 9-page document. All the do's and don'ts and rules, and I'm not one of those guys that likes 9-page documents with all of those. I really like if we have the rules in place that we meet, because every group can be different. Every need can be different. Every park is different. If this happened at Phillips Center down on the lower portion when we didn't have T-ball or soccer going on, we don't have any parking issues there. We don't have, or a lot of our parks. So I really think we have the mechanisms in place to handle it. Just wanted to bring it up to our Recreation Advisory Commission and to this board as well. If you have any input or any questions, that was our proposal. Was we didn't ask at that time. We didn't ask for we didn't have any recommendations for the RAC. We didn't feel like we needed one at that time, but we did go back and talk to other city staff and felt like we had the mechanisms in place to handle it, but we just needed to make sure that we met with them and dealt with it the right way.
Yes, sir.
Chuck, the things I have about this is, one, is it possible for us to have an online scheduling area for the website itself where a group can go in there and schedule, so we're made aware that they're coming. Two, is there a hold harmless agreement that they can incorporate in their documents that they have people signing off on? So if they do come on city property and they get hurt, ergo, with our hold harmless agreement in there, they cannot sue us as well. And three, what type of fees and when would they kick in? Like, if someone's there exercising with 4 or 5 folks, you know, does it start at 1, 2 people? Does it start, you know, where does it start and where does it progress to? 100 people? That's a lot of people. You know, would have been nice to have known ahead of time. That's what I'm thinking about, interactive and that type of thing, so there's a lot.
If I can respond to those in order, one with the technology, I'm sure Mr. Carpenter, we can work on something like that. It's something we have never done, but things are progressing, that's for sure, and we'll definitely look into that and see if we can do that. The second with the hold harmless, that was one of the suggestions, and I'm sorry I failed to mention that when I was talking about it, was if their hold harmless clause incorporated what we wanted to say, and Gastonia Parks and Recreation or the city of Gastonia as well, like our hold harmless clause is too, would be something we would definitely want to do. And the numbers, I will tell you, I've seen instructors teaching tennis on tennis courts, and one guy may have 3 or 4 kids or 3 or 4 adults on one court or 2 courts. I really don't care whether he's charging anything or not. But if he has 40 or 50 and using up 8 courts, then we're going to have that conversation. If there's 2, 4, 6, 8 people running or doing some exercise, I have no problem with that. It is the large numbers, especially at those parks like Rankin Lake, Martha Rivers, and Lineberger Park, where we're competing for parking spaces every day anyway. I think numbers, there are some issues that small numbers can create some problems. We're not going to go looking for it, but I did see we had a personal trainer who, you've seen those sleds where you hook them up to the guy, and it increases your leg strength, and football, even receivers do it. Baseball pitchers do it. It just gives you that. Well, the sled doesn't bother our soccer fields, but when you've got someone who can't pull that thing and they're continually digging in your soccer field, it creates a problem. And I've seen that firsthand. So it could be 2 that would cause a problem, but that's something we would handle. If we see it, we're going to say, hey, look, you're welcome to come train with this guy here, but not with the sled here on the soccer field. This may be a better place for you to train with that. So,
Do we need to send this back to committee so that they're able to, look over what other cities have done in order to present us with fees and scheduling and that type of thing? Would that be something that we should look at?
Council, we can do, I will tell you that we do have fee schedules in place for things. Most of our classes that are recurring type events, the instructor gets 75%, the city gets 25%. That's everything from dance to karate, all the ones that I mentioned. And everything across the state that I've found is between 15 and 30%. And there are terms in our fee schedule where the recreation director can negotiate those things too. And as I said, a lot of factors factor into that. And being able to negotiate it, just like if a baseball organizer comes in to run a tournament, there may be different things that they want to incorporate into that schedule, and having the ability to negotiate that where it benefits the city and the individual and the participants is what we would favor doing. Now, we'd be glad to take it to committee, bring it for further discussion. We've got a lot of background information I've got from a lot of cities and towns, and be glad to do that if that's the council's wishes.
No, Brendan and Todd.
just briefly, since the Gastonia Optimus Club Park comes under Parks and Recreation, could you give us a brief update as to what's going on there?
Something we've been waiting on for a long time. The playground equipment did arrive today. I know when Mayor Pro Tem Craig picked out a date, and I had a heart attack because wasn't but a couple of weeks after the playground equipment was supposed to be in. But it is in our shop, and the installer is in town, sleeping in a hotel in Gastonia, North Carolina, and he's starting at 7 o'clock in the morning. So that's the good news. Gary Sane and the engineering department, he sent out a revised schedule today, and I'll tell you, it is really, really, really tight. We've got to finish the playground. We've got stone and drainage and mulch to go in there, fencing, a little bit of concrete, and a little bit of landscaping, and the parking that Firestone is letting us use to finish. So I'm going to let you and Gary hash out whether that 23rd date is still good or not. He and I both had you and I had a conversation. He and I had a couple of conversations today, and we're scared to death of that date. But that's what you. If that's what you want to do and your group wants to do, we'll do everything in our power to make it happen. Can't do anything about rain. Can't do anything about outside vendors. But if you haven't been by there, it is really. It's really a nice. It's going to be a nice piece. See what I watch this.
I just wanted to make the comment that if, obviously you would bring it back to us if you felt like you needed something stronger, kind of getting back to what we were discussing before with the large groups. But I like what you said, because it could be the 2 people training, or it could be the 100 people training. You can't really set a concrete policy that's going to be effective in every situation. So given the Parks and Rec Department the flexibility to negotiate those, I think works well. So, you know, if you ever needed something, then obviously we'd be glad to hear it, but I think leaving it as is.
And of course, from the legal office and our risk management folks, we would not, if there was anything, we would definitely seek their guidance as well.
Any other questions? We'll just leave it as. Back to that boot camp just a second. Working pretty good for you, isn't it? I mean, are you a member of the boot camp?
Am I a member of the boot camp?
I didn't see you in the paper, but a picture, but.
No, sir. No, sir.
Well, you're.
Maybe I need to do that.
I'd like to share if you're looking good. Okay.
Actually, I believe that your boot camp is on the Outer Banks, isn't it?
My boot camp begins.
Oh.
Actually, I told them it'd be close to 7:30. Trucks loaded up, the boat's loaded up. We're heading to Harker's Island here as soon as we're finished.
Oh, you better hurry.
You going for Red Drum?
You're 5 minutes.
Absolutely. Speckle trout.
Get big ones.
Yeah, great.
Mr. Mayor, there's one other thing, since Chuck's here. There was a situation that has occurred at Sims Legion Park that I think we should just share with the council, that this has to do with the scoreboard.
Oh, yeah, yes, sir. Yes, sir. If you drive by Sims Legion Park, the scoreboard is no longer there. What we had with that was 6 years ago, we had an individual approach us with a free scoreboard and a 6-year lease. The premise was there was a video portion, and he was going to have someone come in and sell advertising on that board, and we would give him the right to do that. The first year he was to receive all the profits. The second year we would receive, second and third year 25%, and then fourth and fifth year 50% of those profits, under the premise that those profits, what we would make at the end of 5 years, we would purchase the board for $150,000. The premise was that our half would at least get us to that, or make improvements over there. And to my knowledge, there hasn't been one dime of and this was not the Grizzlies. This was a company, an advertising company in Forest City. So the good news is we've had a really nice $150,000 scoreboard for free for 6 years. It was a no-brainer to go into the deal. Now we've got to find a scoreboard to replace it. Are we going to spend $150,000? We absolutely cannot. Between us and the Grizzlies, we cannot. Back 5 to 6 years ago, we were looking at spending $25,000 to $35,000 for a really, really, really nice scoreboard. And that's the number we're playing around with now to, you know, to do that. So, scoreboard didn't get blown down, no one, you know, but it is gone, but it was a really, for 6 years, and it was a really good idea. We actually didn't lose. The advertising guys won the loss. As you know, what happened 5 years ago, you know, the economy sort of tanked and advertising sort of its business went down. So,
Yes, sir.
Chuck, we're fortunate, I don't recall whether you were there or not, we recently had the industry announcement, Mayor, that you oversaw at the conference center. And it's my recollection that the new subsidiary of Owens Corning is doing something, I thought, with fiber optics. It might be worth a phone call to them to see if they have anything in the scoreboard line that, or something to that effect, that they might be willing to debut in our city.
Or sponsor otherwise.
I'm sorry?
Or sponsor otherwise.
Well, I was getting to that. I just wanted to throw that out. I don't remember. Do you recall, Your Honor? I believe it was something with fiber optics or something.
They discussed that.
That's right. You were there too, Tom.
Steve Nye will be probably the one that we could contact for us at the Economic Development Works with Donnie Hicks. He's the one that brought him.
I think at this facility, though, it's going to be mainly building products with fiber threads.
Well, he had indicated that they were going to branch out into other things, and that's why I'm not sure whether it's in their bailiwick, but it sounds like it might be worth a phone call and to see if that's something down the road that they might be looking into. We certainly would like to be a good neighbor and host them.
it's definitely worth a phone call.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Okay, that is, any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank y'all.
Good luck.
Have a safe trip.
City Attorney's report.
No report, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
All right. City Manager's report.
Mr. Mayor, Council, a few things. First of all, starting Monday, we will be going into NeoGov, and that is a program that Mr. Carpenter is here. If you could just step up here. But basically, whenever you make application for the city, you use you fill it out. It's old-fashioned, and you hand it in to us, and then a clerk then types it and puts it in. You know, it's really inefficient, and we've been meaning to get to this for a long time, and we finally have gotten it. And unlike the healthcare rollout, right? This one has been properly beta tested, we think. And on Monday, what will happen is NeoGov, which is the same system I think the state has, you sign in, you want a job with the city, you know, you just get online, right?
That's
and you
correct.
explain it, and then once you have your number, anytime you want to check the status of your application, because I know a lot of people talk to the council and mayor about how can I get a job with the city and all this, so can you just explain just a little bit about what we're doing?
Sure, this is just part of what we're trying to do with our website overall, looking towards more citizen convenience and more of a portal into the city, just anything we can do to help. And what you asked Chuck for is a consideration we've already talked about also. But NeoGov is basically going to allow anyone to submit applications to the city online, whereas right now it's all paper-based. In addition to that, it eliminates paperwork from a personnel or requisition standpoint, a job description standpoint, a personnel action standpoint, staffing recommendation. All of that paperwork becomes electronic also. And there's approval queues that the paperwork flows through, such that if I need to advertise for a position, you know, I will electronically create my requisition and flow that request all the way up to the city manager for approval. It will become posted. Applicants can apply. I can do my hiring process all electronically. It's also going to allow citizens to get job notifications. So even though there might not be a job open right now, for instance in IT, if they want to get notified via email,
they will be able to do so just by signing up. The other thing this will do is allow our applicants to know the status of the application. So hopefully it'll take a little burden off of our staff, people calling in and asking, is my application even being reviewed, or where does it stand in the process? They'll be able to log on to their account online and have that information at their fingertips, so to speak. So hopefully it'll be a big improvement, be successful.
Thank you. Would you be able to have, at our next televised meeting, something we can put on the screen with the exact address, and so we could kind of highlight that, and folks that would know where to apply and what the specific addresses are?
I'll tell you that it's gonna be our website.
Okay.
So when you go to our website right now and you click on the jobs link, you're told how to apply. Basically bring in an application
Right.
and give it to HR. If they click on the job link starting Monday, and it's gonna take them to right where they need to go, but I could certainly demonstrate that if you like.
Yeah, we can also put it on the channel, because, you know, our government channel, you know, is ongoing, and we can create a little something that keeps, hey, because it does tell you about jobs right now. And so it should lead you to that information and be able to, you know.
The website?
Yeah, well, it's actually on the channel, the TV channel.
Oh, sure,
Right,
because.
so it's gonna lead you to where you need to go.
To the website.
But we can also explain it at the next meeting.
I'd be glad to.
We also have the ability to, you have your own resume, copy and paste is an area on there to do that.
Yes, sir. You can have multiple resumes. You could have different resumes for different types of jobs. You can maintain your references. You can maintain your education. All of that becomes very, very easily maintained.
Thank you, sir.
The next two items, there's two potential meetings out there for us, and what we'll do is be calling, Jenny and Regina will be calling you about, you know, what time's available. One is the county commissioners. Remember last year when they invited us up there to meet with them? We said at the time that we wanted to reciprocate and have them come and meet with us sometime. Well, it's been a whole year now, and so wanted to take a look at your calendars. We can do that perhaps in December. We've actually been able to work pretty well with the commissioners, because if you think about the tax situation, you know, moving it back to the fiscal year, there have been a number of things that we've been working together on, and I think that we, over the past year, are doing pretty well with the county and the city in terms of our relation. Not perfect. There are a few things that we still need to be working toward, but that's one. The other is, Councilman Kerlin mentioned the strategic planning workshop, and you know, we do one of these every year, and I think you know, it is the anniversary, the 2-year anniversary tonight of this council, and so we're going to have 2 more years. And so what we were going to do is schedule something. We thought maybe January. And what we would do with that is have a football theme, that it's halftime. What sort of adjustments should we make? Do we feel like throwing the ball down the field? We got to be, you know, how aggressive do we want to be? Where, you know, what boundaries? Remember, the fourth quarter is when tax reval comes in. It's also the election year. So the fourth quarter is something you have to be careful of, or that fourth year. So we'll, you know, maybe I'll dress up with our favorite uniforms and get to that. But those are two dates that we. Well,
he was going to do that.
Just don't carry the football theme too far, and in January have it on Super Bowl.
Super Bowl.
Oh, I know. Yeah, right.
Don't schedule it that day.
What we're going to do is call to try to find dates on for both of those things. Next, we got a letter from Gotha, Germany, and they have invited representatives from our fire department to go to Germany in May. There's 150th year of their fire brigade. Now, the city years ago did pay for a few people to go over, employees, and then they stopped it. They didn't, you know, that was an excessive expenditure. And over the years, we've kind of gone back and forth on that. They said that we could have as many as 4. They actually mentioned the chief and as many as 3. I would think that we could send the chief and 1, you know, because now, you know, and who pays? Do we make the employee pay, or do we pay? Those, you know, again, different city councils have done it different ways over the years. So this is a request from GOTA. They'd like to know by the end of November, you know, how many are coming, so just wanted to talk to you. I would recommend we just send 2 instead of the 4 in terms financially. You know, I think.
How many days?
Pardon me?
How many days?
A week usually.
But
it
the
is
people
with
from
the
Go-
Gatada Fest.
The people from GOTA will put the 2 people.
Yes.
That's what they've done in the
That's like
past. So
biggest-
we're talking about airfare.
Yeah, you're
Well,
expense.
you're
Right.
talking about airfare and then just coverage, you know, for the, yeah. So,
Now, that,
we could, yeah.
that's the same letter from the mayor that wasn't in English, is that right?
Yeah, they
Couldn't read.
I know, they sent us one, and there's actually 2 letters. There's another one that talks about a museum, where they want to come over to our museum.
Yeah.
And they just want to know who to meet with that. And that's a pretty easy thing. But with regard to sending our employees over there, we just probably need to get some official approval from the council to do that.
Anybody got, you want that now?
We can do it now or at the next meeting, just, you know, give, you know, guidance as to, you know, if the council wants to do that, and
Hasn't in the past, and I could be wrong, that the city paid for the employees, okay? But then there was some council people that went and they paid their own way.
both, we've done both. We've made the employee pay sometimes, and I remember, yeah, when I went, I paid, and Chief Salt paid, you know. So and then before, Flip Bombardier and I went, and the city paid. So it depending upon the year, we've done it both ways. So
I'd make a recommendation that at least the city pay for the 2 employees. I would make that in the form of a motion.
But have we decided whether it's gonna be 2 or 4?
no, it's you know, I mean, we're.
So are you saying just
I
2?
just-
That would be our decision too. I mean, they're saying as many as 4. You know, we will invite them sometimes, and we'll say, you know, would you like to come? There may be 8 or 10, and they may only send, they may send less, you know. If they send I mean, I think it'd be hard, or we shouldn't send 8. You know, they invited, they said as many as 4, and they just need to know how many, you know. But, you know, if we're gonna pay for it, you know, how many do you want to send?
I'll second that motion.
Oh, okay, very good.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion?
I mean, I'm in favor of us paying for the employees, depending on the expense, could we not send the 4, depending on what the airfare costs?
The airfare is gonna be $1,200 or something like that, and, you know, there'll be some other incidental expenses, you know, with it.
More transportation, trying to get to go and all that.
Yeah.
Generally-
Once you
generally
get-
they pick
Once
you
you
up.
get to GOTA,
They pick
they
you
just,
up.
they just take care of you. You really have no expenses there. It's really just it's pretty much the flight over there.
Can you try that new airline, the
It what?
fly-by-night one?
It is all fly-by-night. You sleep on the way over, and you wake up the next day.
Would this be during October at all, or?
It's in May.
Okay.
They always invite, this is their
May
go-to.
1 to May 5.
Always, yeah.
I'm just wondering.
It'll be about $5,000
Mayor's hoping that the fire chief and 3 firefighters from Gastonia can come for this event. He'd like to know on November 30th what firefighters to expect from Gastonia. Mayor Rouch. Okay, there is a motion and a second that we send 2 firefighters. good to know. Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor? It's unanimous.
And we'll let the,
Doing
we'll
that,
let the,
maybe they could raise money privately.
oh, yeah.
May find the money.
Get those boots
We'll let
out
the chief
on the
determine who,
Yeah.
right? Who's, who, yeah. Let's see.
You don't. Another one?
Okay, the last and final thing, the art space people were here. They are making progress. They're trying to narrow down the sites. They're working. They met with the Community Foundation. And see, their contract's really with the Community Foundation. It's not with the city. So they're working hard on that, and we should be seeing something soon. Lorraine Mill, if you haven't been out there, I mean, they're just going crazy. And they believe that by April, you'll actually have something open. You know, but that's, you know, I think that would be the earliest where you're really going to have that done. Also, subdivisions opening more and more. Bethesda Oaks now, the one on Robinwood Road across from Lakewood and Glenmere. The thing with all of these subdivisions is this. What?
Robinson Oaks.
What'd I say?
Bethesda Oaks is down behind, at Bethlehem Church.
Robinson. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's what I.
Robinson Oaks. After
Sorry,
Robinson.
you were half right.
Robinson family.
Robinson Oaks.
Yeah, the thing with all these subdivisions is that the people that are taking them over are often, I mean, they're different people than the people that designed them. And in the case of Robinson Oaks, it's two builders who are working for another developer, none of whom were the McAlpines who planned it. So you have, it's this business of inheriting something. And the staff is working with the developers to try to make the requirements that were approved pre-recession work in the new after-recession climate with different developers. And there really are no local builders much anymore. They're mostly, you know, national builders. And we're working with them on all of the rules and regulations. So, and I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, council reports, Ms. Craig.
No report, sir.
No report.
Okay, Mr. Pearsall.
Just very quickly, I was able to go tour the McGuire facility with Councilman Gallagher on Saturday. Is my mic on? No. Oh. I was like, I am. So thank you to Paul Jakubczak for setting that up. That was very, very interesting to see that and know the city's participation in that. And then also a second thank you to Mr. Jakubczak for to you and the staff in the utility department that did some lines and transformers out in my neighborhood. Very professional guys, and boy, that work was done quick. So that was nice and very, very professional. So thank you. Thank you.
The Catawba nuclear site is definitely awesome. If you ever get a chance to go, it's there. It's, you know, they answered all our questions. We asked questions on 3 Mile Island, Fukushima, Chernobyl. We asked about the China syndrome, what that was all about, and they answered each one of our questions thoroughly, and that was very, very nice. And the site itself, you know, very interesting, seeing, you know, it's very secure. And we went into the control room, and the first question Councilman Pearsall said is Homer here? Great, great.
I love that.
So, and they have the same colors as Homer.
The control room.
In the control room, yeah, so it was great. The other thing was at the Dream Center, and Dickie Spargo's getting that up and running, and they're starting to have some jobs, and also the hospital's starting to do their classes there as well. So it's good to see that's up and running. And that was it. Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Curley.
No report.
Mr. Kimball.
Thank you, sir. Again, Flip, and also I also attended with Jim the Dream Center luncheon, and they said they've been getting great cooperation from the staff on, particularly you, on some of the transportation challenges which they're facing, and they want to try and eradicate in the future. Thank you again for the getting the numbers back on the conference center attendees and the different events, and I think it looks very positive. Chief Conley, quick question for you. Recently at a conference, and obviously it was on somewhat of efficiency and trying to really make as much as you can out of your personnel hours in these troubling economic times. One of the focuses was on police responses to false alarms, and the amounts, frankly, of false alarms on a national level is over the 80% mark. Are we doing any remediation in that area or any studies?
Yes, for years we've been trying to address some of the problems that we experienced with the false alarms. That's a nationwide problem.
Yes.
And it's around 10% of calls for service average, I think, nationwide. Our calls for service with false alarms account for about 7 to 8% of our calls for service. It's a large draw on the personnel. We have worked for several years trying to address the problems by looking at repeat calls for service, looking at where we're having false alarms and repeat false alarms, going to those locations and trying to see what we need to do to fix the situation. Our most success has been with residential alarms. The least success we've had has been with businesses, the commercial side of things. Most of the false alarms we have are business, restaurant related. It's not that much with like the residents and just personal people that have the alarms. They tend to fix them whenever they have problems.
In schools too, right?
Schools would probably, well, government is probably around 8% of the calls for service out of all the false alarms that we have. But it's a problem. It's a nationwide problem. Many places have tried to deal with it several different ways. We have in the past come before this body and spoke about alarm ordinances. We've been unsuccessful. I've got some information. We've looked at it again this year that maybe we can present.
Great.
See where we stand with that. But it's a problem that will continue, and you have trouble dealing with it when you're just going out talking to people rather than having a little bit of teeth. It kind of goes back to how we worked with the rental ordinance and getting something in place to where you can actually work with people and get somewhere with it. But now a lot of the places that we go to, they have alarms, they want us to respond, and it doesn't really matter if most all of them are false. You said in the 80%, ours is the high 90s for false alarms.
It's incredible.
High 90s.
And we just had a meeting 2 weeks ago, I think, and where we looked at a proposed plan to deal with this. And as the chief said, we brought this before the council's
2002.
2002. Yeah, good. I was going to say about something. And and we did not take action at that time. So we plan to bring that to the
I
facility.
believe it's on the agenda for the Facilities Committee meeting, which is going to be November the 12th, I believe.
Correct. Yes. So for discussion. So this matter is going to come back to the council for to see what the options are. Because there are some like Charlotte that actually are just they charge you at a certain point. Now there's another one which actually calls for verification. Now that's a more serious. That's the one that really addresses the problem. But interestingly enough, what cities in North Carolina do that?
Verified
Yeah.
response? I don't know of any that do
Like
it.
none.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what we're going to do is have that conversation, and you guys have put together a good packet of information.
We have a good packet of information and several options. It's a problem that I think everyone in the police community has tried to tackle at one time or another. And the only way we've got to do it now is to go and actually talk to the people who have the alarms. We have some success.
Thank you very much, Chief, and congratulations to Captain Britton. I believe you graduated from the NA, FBI National Academy. I don't know what class you were, but congrats. That's a great accomplishment.
Yeah, congratulations.
That's all I have. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. Okay, I think we've covered, and be sure and look over the announcements there. Is there a motion to adjourn? Is there a second? All in favor?
And what I want to
Hey.
really reinforce that if we can get that, you know, we're getting real close to the holiday shopping season.
Yeah,
So I
but
think we need to break that out.
We had an ordinance written on the agenda.
You mean the
Cox Road,
Cox
we're
Road?
gonna put
Yeah.
that new signage up. We
Yeah.
need to get that in before, we only got several weeks to see.
Where that is, because
Can I,
Hey, Walter. Oh, yeah. Good evening, sir. I didn't understand.
Mr. Monk.
Excuse me, Mr. Monk. About 3:20.
I know you were trying to escape. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You know, your friend of mine, Steve Whitesell. Oh, yeah. Your friend of mine. Okay? He's a good guy.
I was going to announce that I went to the highly secret switching station at AT&T, but they told me if I mentioned it, they'd kill me. You know, that's the ones that had the email, MapQuest between them. It's over the airport. I couldn't find it again. No signs, no nothing. Yeah, I got there. I was there.
Jenny, did you get all those handouts? You should have mine.